Today, we're cracking open the financial rulebook. We're going to get to the bottom of something that forms the very foundation of trust in business: accounting standards.
I mean, really think about that for a second. When you see a company report its profits or losses, how do you actually know those numbers are legit? Or how do you know they're calculating things the same way as their biggest competitor? It's a massive question for anyone: investors, partners, even employees.
Well, the answer really is all about creating a common language, a kind of universal translator for business, so that all companies report their financial health in a way that anyone, anywhere, can understand. And that's where accounting standards come into play.
Okay, so let's dive right in. People love to call these standards the bedrock of financial trust. But what are we really talking about here?
To put it simply, they are the official rules of the financial game. And these aren't just friendly suggestions, They are detailed, official policies written by experts that tell companies exactly how to report everything they do financially.
These rules really focus on four crucial questions. First up, recognition. At what exact moment do you actually record a sale or an expense? Then, measurement. Okay, so what's it worth? How much money are we talking about? Third is presentation. How do you organize all this data so it's actually readable and makes sense? And finally, disclosure. What other juicy details do you have to share so that everyone has the full picture?
So why go through all this trouble? Well, the goals are simple, but they are incredibly powerful. First, standardize how things are done so everyone is playing on the same field. Second, make sure you can actually compare apples to apples when you're looking at two different companies. And maybe most important of all, create real transparency, which of course builds that trust we keep talking about.
Okay, so we get what these standards are and why they matter. But who actually gets to write this rulebook? Specifically, who does it here in India?
Let's do a real quick history lesson. The whole push for global rules kind of started back in 1973 with a group called the IASC. But what's really interesting is that just 4 years later, in '77, India's own Institute of Chartered Accountants, the ICAI, set up its own accounting standards board, the ASB. This shows that India was thinking about this stuff right from the get-go, in parallel with the global movement.
So the main player in India is this Accounting Standards Board, or ASB. And the most important thing to understand about it is its makeup. This isn't just a bunch of accountants sitting in a dark room. No, it's a really diverse group. You've got people from industry, from the government, from all sorts of professional bodies. This helps make sure the rules they create are practical and fair for the whole economy. Now, creating a new standard isn't something that happens overnight. It's a really careful step-by-step journey. As you can see, the ASB starts by identifying a need, but then, and this is key, it opens the floor for discussion. Drafts get sent out to other experts, and most importantly, an exposure draft is put out for public comment. That means anyone, from a giant company to a small business owner, can give their 2 cents before a rule becomes official.
So, after that whole rigorous process, where do we stand today? Well, as of now, there are 27 effective accounting standards that businesses in India need to follow.
But hold on. Does that mean every single business, from a local shop to a massive conglomerate, has to follow all 27 of those rules in the exact same way? Well, the simple answer is no. See, the system's actually designed to be practical. It gets that the reporting burden on a massive corporation is way different than it is for a small or medium-sized company. So to make things fair, smaller businesses get certain exemptions and relaxations.
This table breaks it down really nicely. In India, companies are pretty much split into 2 buckets, based on their size. On one side, you have the big guys, the non-SMCs. If their turnover is more than 250 crores or they've borrowed over 50 crores, they have to follow every single rule, full stop. But for the small and medium companies, or SMCs, who are below those thresholds, the system cuts them some slack with exemptions to make life a little easier.
All right, let's zoom out a bit. We've seen how India's system works on its own. But we live in a global economy, right? So how do our rules fit in with what the rest of the world is doing?
This quote pretty much says it all. Having rules that are aligned across the globe just makes everything smoother. It helps money flow from one country to another, it lets companies list on stock exchanges in New York or London, and it means an investor anywhere can easily compare a company in Mumbai to one in Berlin.
So when a country decides it wants to align with global standards, like the big one, IFRS, it has 2 basic paths. You can see them here. The first is adoption, which is basically a copy-paste job. You take the international rules and use them exactly as they are. The other path is convergence. Think of this as a careful translation.
You make your rules match the global ones, but you tweak them a little to fit your country's specific needs. And India made a very deliberate choice. We chose convergence. That's why we have our own NIS, which are almost identical to IFRS, but tailored for India.
So, to wrap this up, why is this global alignment so vital? Well, it lowers the risk for foreign investors because they already know the rules. It makes life way easier for Indian companies that work all over the world. It opens up doors to get funding from abroad. And at the end of the day, it helps put everyone on a level playing field.
Which leaves us with one last big question to think about. We've seen how India's convergence approach works, allowing us to have rules that fit our own context. But as the world gets smaller and business becomes truly borderless, is the final destination a single, universal set of financial rules for every single country on Earth? It's a huge debate, and something the entire financial world is still figuring out.